Have you ever found yourself in a debate, absolutely convinced of your position? You present the facts as you know them. You recall specific examples that prove your point, and you feel a deep, unshakable certainty that you are right. We all have. We hold this image of ourselves as rational beings, carefully weighing evidence to arrive at the most logical conclusion. We believe our opinions are forged in the fire of objective analysis. This is the story we tell ourselves about how our minds work. But what if that story is a lie? What if, right now, your mind is actively filtering reality to protect you from a single, terrifying threat? The possibility that you might be wrong. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's a feature of your cognition. A hidden trap known as confirmation bias, and understanding it is the first step toward reclaiming your own perception. In this video, we will dismantle one of the most powerful invisible forces in your life. We will go beyond a simple definition and explore the deep neuroscience of why. Your brain prefers the comfort of certainty over the discomfort of truth. We will uncover how this bias secretly dictates the news you consume, the memories you trust, and the people you listen to. And most importantly, we will provide you with the tools not just to see this trap, but to escape it, to find the clarity and growth that only come when we have the courage to challenge our own beliefs. To truly understand the confirmation bias, we must first accept a fundamental truth. The human brain did not evolve to seek objective, universal truth. It evolved to survive. In a complex and dangerous world, making quick, efficient decisions was far more important than making perfectly accurate ones. Our minds developed shortcuts, mental heuristics that allow us to process vast amounts of information and act decisively. And one of the most powerful, most pervasive of these shortcuts is the one that protects our established worldview. It operates on a simple, seductive principle. It's better to be consistent than to be correct. This is where we encounter a concept known as cognitive dissonance. Think of it as a state of mental stress, an uncomfortable tension that arises when we try to hold two contradictory ideas in our mind at the same time, or when new information directly challenges a core belief. Our brain, in its quest for efficiency and calm, abhors this feeling. It interprets this dissonance not just as an intellectual problem, but as a genuine threat to our stability. And so, it activates a defense mechanism. It systematically begins to seek out information that reinforces our original belief, while simultaneously avoiding, discrediting, or simply not noticing anything that contradicts it. This is the confirmation bias in action. It is the brain's immune system for uncomfortable thought. Imagine your mind is a vast, ancient library, and you, the conscious self, are the reader. When you form a strong belief, it's like discovering a book in this library that you absolutely fall in love with. It explains the world so perfectly. Now, a good librarian would, upon request, provide you with all the books on that same topic, those that agree, those that disagree, and those that offer a different perspective entirely. But your brain isn't a good librarian. It is a biased librarian. Once it knows which book you love, its sole mission is to make you feel good about your choice. It starts reorganizing the entire library around that one book. It brings all the similar, confirming books to the main reading room, stacking them on tables where you can't miss them. But the contradictory books, the ones that challenge the narrative, the biased librarian quietly carries them down to a dark, dusty basement, hides them behind old shelves, and pretends they don't exist. It does this because it knows that seeing those contradictory books on the shelf next to your favorite one would cause you that stressful feeling of dissonance. So, you, the reader, live in a curated reality, an echo chamber built by a librarian whose only goal is to protect you from the discomfort of being challenged. Let's make this tangible. Consider a person who, after a few difficult experiences, forms the core belief, "I am fundamentally unlikable." This is now their favorite tragic book in the library. Their biased librarian gets to work. When this person goes on a date that ends without a second one, the librarian pulls that event from the shelf and places it right on the front desk. "See?" it whispers. "Here is the evidence." When a colleague offers a curt reply via email, that email is printed, highlighted, and added to the pile. But what happens when someone gives them a genuine compliment, or when a friend goes out of their way to help them? The librarian dismisses it. They were just being polite, it rationalizes, as it carries that piece of evidence down to the basement. Over time, the person's reality becomes a fortress built of confirming evidence. They don't see the world as it is. They see a world that proves their deepest, most painful belief is true. This isn't a choice. It's an architecture, an internal echo chamber designed for comfort that slowly seals us off from reality itself. This internal architecture doesn't just sit there. It actively shapes our interaction with the outside world through two powerful mechanisms: selective exposure and selective memory. It builds the walls of our echo chamber, and then it wallpapers them with images that reflect what we already believe. Selective exposure is the process of choosing to engage only with information that we expect will agree with our viewpoint. In the modern world, this has become dangerously easy. We think we are choosing a news channel or a website to become informed, but more often than not, we are choosing them to be validated. The algorithms that govern our social media feeds and news aggregators have become terrifyingly efficient, biased librarians. They learn our preferences, our clicks, our likes. They learn which book is our favorite, and then they dedicate their immense power to feeding us an endless stream of content that confirms it. The result is the creation of filter bubbles, parallel realities where, on a topic of public importance, two people can consume information for hours and never once encounter the same set of facts or arguments. They aren't just disagreeing, they are operating in entirely different informational ecosystems. Think of it as a confirmation diet. Imagine feeding yourself only your favorite comfort food, say, pizza, every meal, every day. For a short while, it would be wonderful. It's satisfying, it's predictable, it feels good. But what would be the long-term effect on your physical health? You would become malnourished, deprived of the essential vitamins and minerals needed for your body to function properly. This is precisely what we do to our mind. We put ourselves on a strict diet of agreeable information. It feels good. It gives us the satisfying rush of being right. But it leads to intellectual malnutrition, where we are starved of the essential nutrients of different perspectives, challenging arguments, and inconvenient facts. Our worldview becomes intellectually obese with certainty, but weak and brittle from a lack of genuine rigor. Let's watch this play out. Consider two neighbors, David and Maria. They are both intelligent, thoughtful people who care about their country. A new, complex economic policy is proposed by the government. David's core belief is that government intervention is inherently harmful to the economy. Maria's core belief is that government has a vital role to play in ensuring fairness. That night, David turns on his preferred news channel, which spends the next hour interviewing economists who detail the disastrous potential of the new policy. He scrolls through his social media feed, where algorithms show him articles from his friends and from sources he follows, all echoing the same sentiment. Maria, meanwhile, turns on her preferred channel, which features experts explaining why the policy is necessary and beneficial. Her feed is filled with stories of people who will be helped by the new law. By the end of the evening, have David and Maria become more informed? No, they have become more entrenched. Their certainty has been magnified. Their echo chambers have been reinforced. Now, add the second mechanism, selective memory. Weeks later, if you ask David and Maria about the policy, their brains will perform one final trick. David will vividly recall all the arguments about economic harm. He will remember the facts and figures that supported his view. He will have completely forgotten the counter-arguments, if he ever encountered them at all. Maria will do the exact same, but for her position. Their memories are not passive recordings of the past. They are active, biased storytellers, rewriting history to make their internal narrative more coherent. This is how the bias becomes a closed loop, a self-perpetuating cycle where what we believe dictates what we see, and what we see confirms what we believe. The comfort of this echo chamber is a tempting illusion, but it comes at an exceptionally high price. The silent cost of our need to be right permeates every aspect of our lives, from our most intimate relationships to our greatest professional ambitions. It is the invisible friction that grinds down connection, the unseen wall that blocks growth, and the faulty compass that leads to catastrophic decisions. Certainty isn't a strength, it is a cage. Think of your firmly held beliefs as a fortress. Inside its high stone walls, you feel protected, powerful, and secure. Your ideas are safe from attack, but a fortress, by its very nature, is a static, defensive structure. The moat is so wide and the drawbridge is so rarely lowered that new information, fresh perspectives, and vital intelligence from the outside world can no longer get in. Worse, you can't get out. You are cut off from exploring new territories, from discovering that the map of the world you've been clinging to is outdated or incomplete. Over time, that safe fortress becomes a prison. It's a prison of stagnation, where personal growth withers, and true understanding becomes impossible. The cost of living in this fortress is the world outside of it. In our relationships, this cost is paid in the currency of intimacy. We enter a disagreement not with the goal of understanding our partner's perspective, but with the mission of proving our own. We listen for flaws in their argument, not for the feeling behind their words. Our biased librarian is working overtime, pulling up every memory of when we were right and they were wrong. The conversation ceases to be a bridge between two people and becomes a battlefield. The person we love is recast as an adversary to be defeated. Victory in these arguments is always hollow, because the price of being right is often a small but painful erosion of the connection itself. Professionally, the stakes can be even higher. Let's consider the story of a man we'll call Michael, a brilliant and respected product manager at a technology firm. For years, he had overseen the development of his company's flagship software using a traditional, methodical approach he had perfected. It was his signature, it was his identity. His core belief was, "My method is the best method." One day, a junior engineer named Sarah came to his office. She was nervous, but armed with compelling data. She presented a case for switching to a newer, more agile development model, showing how it could drastically speed up their time to market and respond better to customer feedback. Michael's confirmation bias kicked in instantly. He felt that familiar pang of cognitive dissonance. Instead of engaging with Sarah's data, he began seeking evidence to confirm his existing belief. He dismissed her research as too academic and not applicable to the real world. He recalled all the past projects that had been successful under his leadership. He called a meeting with two other senior managers who he knew shared his views, and they quickly agreed that staying the course was the wisest option. Michael felt validated. He was certain. He overrode Sarah's proposal and pushed forward with his trusted method. A year later, a competitor launched a similar product. They had used the Agile model. They got to market 6 months before Michael's team, capturing the majority of the market share. Michael's project, when it finally launched, was a commercial failure. The cost of his certainty was millions in lost revenue, a significant blow to his company's position, and a permanent mark on a once stellar career. He wasn't a bad leader. He was a human leader, trapped in a fortress of his own making. If we are all trapped in these invisible fortresses, how do we possibly escape? The answer is not to try and demolish the fortress. Our brains will always have a tendency to build it. The answer is to become a master of digging secret tunnels, of building a hot air balloon, of learning to see over the walls. It requires moving from being a passive resident of our own minds to an active, curious explorer. This means adopting practical tools designed specifically to counteract our brain's default settings. The first and simplest tool is the thought versus echo test. It's an exercise in mindfulness. The next time you encounter a piece of information that supports one of your core beliefs, whether it's in an article, a conversation, or just a passing thought, I want you to pause and observe the feeling it creates. The confirmation bias feels comfortable. It feels like a warm, satisfying hum of recognition. It's an echo of something you already know. Now compare that to the feeling of encountering a piece of information that genuinely challenges you. It might feel spiky, uncomfortable, or confusing. It doesn't fit neatly into your existing mental furniture. That feeling of slight dissonance, that is the feeling of a new thought trying to enter. Your job is to learn to recognize the difference, to become aware when you are simply enjoying the echo of your own chamber and when you are truly processing something new. This awareness is the first step toward freedom. But awareness alone is not enough. We must actively seek out the information our biased librarian tries to hide. This is where we employ a powerful mental model known as the devil's advocate. However, it's more effective to practice what is called Steelmanning. While a devil's advocate argues against a position, a Steelman argument requires you to find the strongest, most intelligent, most persuasive version of the argument you disagree with, and then articulate it as if it were your own. For 10 minutes, you must become the most brilliant advocate for the idea you oppose. Let's imagine our minds and beliefs as a map of the world. For most of us, it's a very old map, drawn a long time ago. It's familiar, and we know how to navigate it. Using a tool like Steelmanning is like hiring the world's most skeptical and skilled cartographer. Their job isn't to burn your old map. Their job is to sail to the edges of it, to intentionally look for the places marked "Here be dragons," and to see what's actually there. They are tasked with finding the flaws, the inaccuracies, the blank spots. The purpose isn't to prove the map is worthless, but to work together to create a new one that is more detailed, more accurate, and ultimately far more useful for navigating the true complexity of the world. Let's try a low-stakes example. Take the common belief, "I am not a creative person." The echo is every memory of a failed art project or a time you couldn't think of a good idea. The hum of that echo feels true. Now, let's apply the Steelman. For 10 minutes, your only goal is to build the strongest possible case for the idea that you are a creative person. You must find the evidence your biased librarian has hidden in the basement. Perhaps you'll remember how you once solved a complex logistical problem at home by rearranging furniture in a unique way. Maybe you'll recall how you enjoy cooking without a recipe, intuitively combining flavors. Perhaps you have a talent for explaining complex ideas to others, which is a profound act of creative communication. The goal of this exercise is not to magically brainwash yourself into believing you are Picasso. The goal is to weaken the absolute, monolithic certainty of the original belief. It's to introduce a new thought, to prove to yourself that a different perspective is possible. It's about building a small gate in your fortress wall, just to let a little light in. The tools are practical, but they are useless without a fundamental shift in mindset. You can have the best map-making tools in the world, but if you're too afraid to look at the blank spots on your map, you will never use them. The ultimate antidote to the confirmation bias is not intelligence or knowledge. It is intellectual humility. It is the courageous act of decoupling your identity from your ideas. It is shifting your life's goal from the desperate need to be right to the quiet, determined pursuit of getting it right. Intellectual humility is the recognition that no matter how much you know, your perspective is finite and your knowledge is incomplete. It's an understanding that your personal experience of the world is not the world itself. This directly counters the arrogance that the confirmation bias breeds, the feeling that our view of reality is the only valid one. Embracing this humility doesn't mean having no opinions. On the contrary, it allows you to hold your opinions with a different kind of grip, a firm but open hand, rather than a clenched fist. It's the spirit of having strong opinions, weakly held, meaning you argue passionately for what you believe, while actively seeking the evidence that would prove you wrong. Think of your knowledge as an island in a vast, dark ocean of ignorance. When you are young, your island is small, and you can't see very far. It's easy to believe your little island is all there is. But as you learn and your island of knowledge grows, something remarkable happens. Your shoreline, your border with the unknown, also expand. The more you know, the more you become aware of what you don't know. A truly wise person isn't the one with the biggest island. It's the one who is most comfortable standing on the shore, gazing out at the endless ocean of the unknown with a sense of awe and curiosity, not fear. The confirmation bias makes us afraid of that ocean. It tempts us to stay in the center of our little island, pretending the shoreline doesn't exist. Humility invites us to become explorers. This is the essence of the scientific method, one of humanity's greatest achievements. At its core, science is a system built on humility. A good scientific theory isn't one that is proven right, but one that has survived countless, rigorous attempts to prove it wrong. Even the greatest minds have struggled with this. Albert Einstein, who revolutionized physics by challenging the Newtonian fortress, could never fully accept the strange implications of quantum mechanics. His certainty, his belief in an orderly universe, led him to famously state, "God does not play dice." He found the evidence for a random, probabilistic universe to be a thought so uncomfortable that his own biased librarian worked to reject it. The lesson here isn't that Einstein was flawed, but that this tendency is universal. The true triumph is the process, a process that values questioning over certainty and evidence over belief. This process, this spirit of intellectual humility, is the only true and lasting antidote to the prison of our own minds. Throughout this journey, we have operated on a central conflict, a fracture between our perception and reality. The perception is that we are rational truth seekers. The reality is that our brains are hardwired belief defenders. We have explored the architecture of this defense system, seen it in action, counted its high cost, and even gathered tools to counteract it. But the most profound realization, the true aha moment, is not in any of these individual pieces. It is in understanding the nature of the prison itself. The prison is not the echo chamber. The prison is not the confirmation bias. Those are just the architecture, the bricks and mortar. The true prison is our unawareness of them. The illusion of objectivity is the lock on the door. For years, we may have believed that the discomfort we feel when our beliefs are challenged is a signal that the opposing idea is wrong or that the person presenting it is foolish. We have perceived that mental friction as a threat. But here's the resolution of the fracture. That feeling of discomfort, of cognitive dissonance, is not a signal to retreat. It is not a warning sign of error. It is a gift. It is a compass needle, shivering and pointing not to danger, but to an opportunity. It is the precise indicator that you are standing on the shoreline of your island of knowledge. It is a sign that you have a chance to expand, to learn, to grow. The aha is that the goal is not to eliminate this discomfort, but to reframe it, to learn to lean into it, to welcome it as the feeling of your mind stretching. Freedom from the confirmation bias trap does not mean achieving a state of perfect, godlike objectivity. That is impossible for a human being. Freedom is the moment-to-moment practice of suspecting you might be wrong. It is the conscious, continuous effort to account for the biased librarian in your head, to thank it for trying to protect you, and then to politely insist on going down to the basement yourself to see what's really there. The fracture between perception and reality is not a static condition we must suffer. It's a tension that we can learn to use. The reality is that our perception is malleable, and the force that shapes it is not evidence, but choice. The choice to remain in the comfort of the echo chamber, or the choice to step into the discomfort of curiosity. The true trap was never the bias itself. It was the belief that we didn't have one. The moment we accept our own fallibility, the moment we embrace intellectual humility, the walls of the fortress do not crumble, but they become transparent. We can see out, and we realize we have had the key to the gate in our pocket the whole time. The real journey is not about finding the right answers. It is about learning to ask better, more challenging, and more honest questions, starting with ourselves. We began this journey believing we were clear-eyed pilots, navigating the world with a flawless map. We have discovered we are, in fact, passengers in a vehicle that is subtly steering us toward familiar destinations, all while convincing us that we are the ones in control. We've explored the machinery of this vehicle, the confirmation bias, and understood that its fuel is our own deep-seated need for comfort and consistency. But this discovery is not a cause for despair. It is a cause for empowerment. By simply understanding the nature of this trap, you have already begun to escape it. You have moved from being an unaware passenger to a conscious navigator, one who can now account for the vehicle's inherent pull. The transformation lies not in rebuilding the entire vehicle, but in learning how to hold the wheel with a new awareness. So, how do we apply this in our daily lives? Starting today, it comes down to a single, transformative practice. The next time you feel that satisfying, warm rush of certainty, that moment when you read an article that perfectly confirms your worldview, or hear an argument that makes you want to stand up and applaud, I invite you to do one thing. Pause, take a breath, and ask yourself one simple, powerful question. What would this look like if I were wrong? Or, even more gently, what is the strongest, smartest argument for the other side? You do not have to believe that argument. You do not have to adopt it. You only have to give it a moment of honest consideration. That single question is the key that unlocks the door to the echo chamber. It is the first step on the path from a reality defined by your beliefs to a new world shaped by your curiosity.